Que obole. Welcome to Evolve with Flaka, to go-to podcast for career growth, confidence, y comunidad. I'm Flaka, your HR mommy. By day, I'm an HR pro, siempre an immigrant advocate, and after the corporate life, I coach professionals chasing más in work and in life. If you've ever questioned your worth, felt stuck at your job, or struggled to juggle motherhood, ambition, and cultura, you're in the right place. I've lived it. From the border to the boardroom, from building a nonprofit to leading in corporate America, I'm here to show you cómo pedir más y cha-ching, get it. Too many of us have been taught to stay bien calladitas, grateful, and siempre humildes, to put everyone else before ourselves. Pero ya no, jefa. It's time to prioritize you and start moving toward the life that you deserve. I've helped countless women evolve, and now I'm here to help you too. Every Wednesday, we'll chismear about real life lessons, my clients' career journeys. Of course, I'm going to share con mucho cariño, pero discreción, and break down strategias so you can step boldly into your next era. Here, we do it all con amor, con poder, y con purpose. Let's evolve, mis jefas. ¿Qué ole? Hola, ¿cómo están? I hope everyone's been doing phenomenal. I know it's been some heavy times, and we've got a long way to go through these times, but we are still here, and that is a blessing. Today, I was debating on what topic to bring into this space with evolving. And, one of the things that I realized is I was changing into more comfort to make sure that I completed this episode to share with you all is I went into my closet and I definitely have a lot of blues to wear. But one of the topics that I realized I haven't talked about is autism. So I am going to take off my HR hat for just a moment. And I'm going to put the one that I wear proudly every single day, which is that autism mom hat. Being an autism mom is absolutely not something that you can ever be prepared for. Being a parent is just, there's no manual out there. There's no perfect way to do it. You just do it. You find a way to best do it. It's definitely something that you grow into with mucho amor, so much resilience, a lot of confusion, because it's like even the verbiage to be politically correct, sometimes it's just confusing. There is a lot of emotions, I think heightened emotions like tears. There's happy tears, there's sad tears, there's frustration tears, there's anger tears, there's just tears. Mucho llanto. When you really care, right? Because some parents don't give a shit. So they're just like, oh, it's somebody else's problem. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, or it doesn't matter, They'll grow out of it. Like, oh my gosh, it's just, yeah. But the type of mama that I am, there's a lot of tears. There's also a lot of joy, because sometimes those milestones that other parents might take for granted with your neurotypical kids, I very much, as an autism mom, I'm just overjoyed when my son hits his milestones. There's a lot of guilt. It's bad enough that they're diagnosed with something that we have to work harder with. And then it's like, well, did I do something? And then that the research out there doesn't, have complete answers. And then when there is like a glimpse of hope of research for support, then there's people like the current administration just blurting out, completely not fact-backed, researched, solid responses to this special need. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of, just unknowns and a whole new definition of patience, like a whole nother level. And I wanted to start with this. Autism is not like rare. Right now in the United States, 1 in every 31 children is identified with autism. That's about 3.2% of 8-year-olds, según los datos del CDC or whatever. And it's not like it picks or it's only one, class. It's not like it's, the middle class or the upper class or the poor. No, it's every single race, every single class, every neighborhood. Just, there's no one exempt. And as a Latina mom, I very much know that this journey as an autism mom, there's an extra layer or two, a couple. So I want to share with you my son's journey. So with my son's journey, I remember just like he was born, right, via C-section, big boy, big healthy boy. Like I remember thinking like, what? I had that big old boy? Like it makes no sense because if you know me and my husband, like we're not that big. But clearly genes, DNA, genetics, all of those things, like they just happened. And it's my first son, right? So I remember just trying to embody like the most loving, fun, entertaining mother that I could be. And I would sing to him and I would read to him and I would talk to him and I would do all the things. And I wasn't new to being around babies. Like my brother had already had his kids, all of them. So I had already been around my nephews and my niece, and I have a couple of little cousins. And very specifically, I have one little cousin. She's a girl. And when I was 16 in my rebellious times, her daddy basically was like, you're going to help watch her so you know, like, what it's like to be a kid. And my brother and his ex-wife were teenage parents. So I very much was a child when they had their first child. And so I experienced all of that, and I was around kids or babies. And when I was singing, reading, and doing all the things with my son, I could very quickly tell that he just wasn't entertained. We'll just call it that. So I would sing, I would dance, I would talk to him, I would read to him, and he wouldn't necessarily react. And I was like, oh, maybe he's just chill. That happened up until like all of his checks. And then the questions started happening during check-ins, checkups with the pediatrician. And when I was looking at some of these questions, I was like, he doesn't do that. That hasn't happened. I don't think I've heard my son. Even when I sing to him, he hardly laughs. I don't think he cries like that. And I remember then he turns a year old and he's still very much like very quiet. And I'm like, how is my kid quiet? Maybe he picked up after his dad, right? So I'm still like not paying much attention to it. Then he starts like crawling a little weird, in my opinion. Like he's like sitting and scooting. He's not like putting his knees down. He's just being very like too cautious. And that was just odd to me. So then he was terrified, y'all, of books. Like he could not see books laying out, or he would just cry like bloody murder. And so that was like, why would he be scared of books? Did somebody drop a book on him that we should try reading more to him? And the more that we read, the more that he would melt down. So I was like, something's off here. He's not really trying to walk. He's not being like involved with us. He's not reacting. Then what ends up happening is that we take him to one appointment where the PA, is my understanding, she was like the assistant to the pediatrician that we took him to. And she's like, doing her checkup. And then she basically feels like he's getting a flathead. And she's like, oh, you need to take him in to get a helmet. And, that's when part of all of this starts, and we're like, okay, helmet time. We go get him the helmet done. And then I really get the opportunity there to start seeing kids his age getting this treatment or getting this helmet. And I start seeing how they're all like interacting, reacting, involved with their parents. And I'm like, why doesn't my son do that? Why doesn't my son do that? Why doesn't my son do that? So I was just like, a lot of comparison for sure. And so then the next check-in, I asked the doctor, like, I'm like, hey, I'm just concerned. Like, I'm like, this boy's about to go in a year and a half, and he's, struggling to walk, and he was like doing a lot of spinning, and he was like running to couches and just kind of like slamming his head a little bit. And so it was just a lot of questions that I hadn't seen other kids do. And so I pushed. And, the pediatrician gave me all kinds of things. Like, he's too little. Like, he's an only child. And you're a working mom. Like, all these things. Like, maybe get him to socially interact. Get him around more kids. Whatever. All kinds of things this man was pushing back on me, this doctor. And I was like, no, I feel like I need to get him checked out. Okay. So then fast forward. We end up going to what's called early childhood intervention, ECI, and there's these evaluators. And long and behold, they're like, well, we can't diagnose him yet, but according to the evaluation, he's missing X, Y, and Z milestones, right? So we get him started on speech therapy. We get him started on occupational therapy. We get him started on behavior therapy, like all of the therapies. And that happens until it's about a year and a half of that. And until he's 3, ECI is through the state of Texas. And then the state of Texas basically was like, you got to go to school. The public school system has the resources now, and the state hands them off to the schools. Okay. So we get him enrolled. He goes to special needs school. He gets evaluated before he starts at the special needs, special education classroom. And then from there, it was just, that is a whole nother conversation about advocating as a mom, but you're the best advocate for your child. I was just like, not the best experience. And Mama Bear definitely got the claws out at that school. And then I had to do my own research and found out that schools evaluate, they don't diagnose. And then you have to go to a special psychologist, psychiatrist, and they will provide a diagnosis. And when we finally got his diagnosis of ASD, or autism spectrum disorder, I remember sitting there thinking, how am I going to continue to work full time? How am I going to help my son thrive? What does this look like for me? How do I show up for my family now? How do I be a wife to a man who has not interacted with children, and let alone special needs children? And am I still going to be able to be me with my son? And just to be quite frank, all of my envisioning of having a son, or my firstborn, crashed down, because I was like, I think all of this looks different. And then there he goes. Then I remembered really telling myself, set up. You don't have to do it all. You're going to do what matters most, and that is defend and protect your child. Now, before I go any deeper, I need all of us to ground in this reality. In the U.S., autism affects 4.9% of boys and 1.4% of girls. But here's the part that really hit my heart as I was like going to these different appointments and going through these different things and all the different support that is out there. Latino children are often diagnosed way later, sometimes up to 2.5 years later than the white non-Latino children. Now, what does that delay really mean? It means delayed support. It means delayed understanding, delayed connecting, delayed interventions. And not because our babies aren't showing any signs, but because the system wasn't built with our families in mind. These pediatricians don't immediately say, hey, I think, we should get your baby evaluated. These schools don't say like, hey, these are the next steps because I feel like this support is needed. Access, language, stigma, fear, everything plays a role into all of this with autism. So one of the things that I thought whenever we got my son's diagnosis was, great, I need to sacrifice now who I was. But no, my career literally didn't die. It evolved. I had to really start making sure that when I was applying to different roles and when I was looking for the next things, or even when I found out the diagnosis, the employer I was with, I was like, hey, I'm going to need to be hybrid. I'm going to need to be flexible. Like COVID was already like getting, we were getting through that. I had to very much set boundaries with people that were around my family because of his language needs. I had to be flexible in our routines. I had to just learn so much and continue to learn and evolve. And now my HR comes in. Everything that I learned about HR in the employee space, in the workspace, all of that became great tools to help me show up for my son, for myself, and our family. Because being an autism mom taught me I advocated harder at work the same way that I advocated for my son at school. And, another thing I want to share is that every mom that is listening to this or may listen to this, or you may share this with, if you're feeling guilty, you are allowed to want both. A thriving child and a thriving career for yourself. Now, one of the main things that I need moms to absolutely understand, regardless of the noise around us, we are our child's best advocate. No one knows them as long as we do, and no one knows them the way that we do. We got a whole 40 plus weeks ahead of everyone else and what they know or how they feel about them. Even when you're lost, you are their best advocate. There is no manual for these meetings that these schools have you sit through. There is no manual for navigating special education or special support. But let me tell you something. You are the strongest voice in the room for your baby. Okay? I remember like the first ARD and IEP meeting, I was like, what are we talking about? And then they go like so fast. They just go boom, 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 boom. It was just a teacher that I don't felt like got what the goals I really wanted for my son. I didn't even know what I wanted or needed, and I was just like, hold on, what is going on here? I've sat in rooms, with people that have underestimated my son. Like he was not going to read because he's so scared of books. And in those same rooms, when they would say things like that, I realized something powerful. My boy does not need me to be perfect. He just needs me to show up and show up all of me. So, moms, you deserve that support. So if you need it, find what that really looks like for you to truly show up and advocate for your child, because that is what they need. You don't need to be judged. You need to be supported. So another part that I have to share about this autism journey is in many Latino families, autism is just already so misunderstood, minimized, or even dismissed. I remember hearing things like, ay, está bien el niño, no pasa nada, es que solo es inquieto, es que está consentido, ay, no vas a exagerar, no tiene eso. But it's not exaggerating for my son whenever I was like, these are the words that we're going to use. These are the things that we're going to work through. I wasn't exaggerating. I'm not exaggerating when I tell you to do or not do for my child. I am advocating. So it was another level of love, right? Like trying to understand and support my son, my parents, my brother, the kids, like everyone around us, my mother-in-law. And our parents weren't being like dismissive. They were just being protective. That's what they do, right? Like they in their own mind, they were trying not to get me to put him in situations that he didn't need to be put into. And they didn't grow up with this type of language, with even this awareness, with this education, this vocabulary, or even the acceptance of like, okay, this is happening and this is something different. How do we, make sure to address it? And it wasn't until I really, really got more involved and looked at many different programs, looked at many different tools, that I really realized like autism is brilliant. It's brilliant. And it's not something that you can just go and read off of a book, or you can see like in a project, or I'm talking about just the astonishment of the brilliance of my son every single day, just being exactly who he is. He has shown me that when he focuses on something now, that is a gift. The hyperfixation that they get on different subjects and topics and things, like, and they learn it and they're devoted to it. Like neurotypicals, we can change things, like we change socks, like it just be holes on it and everything. Not for them. Patterns are art. The routines and sticking to them, gems. The other thing about an autism person, my son, okay, now with some of the support and tools and resources we've gotten, he's learning to be more neurotypical, or that's not the best way to say it, but he's adapting to the way society works. And he's lost a bit of his honesty, but when you really ask him a direct question, unless you're mom, he will be honest with you. And what I've also learned with my son is that love just looks so different. And it doesn't need to look like everybody else's. The love language just changes. The love, like, gestures changes. And, for instance, he is so tender when he comes and greets me, but only greets me when he wants to greet me. Whenever he is, in a good mood, and he is honest about his mood. So now, putting my HR hat on, being an autism mom has been a game changer for me in my own profession. It has made me a truly better HR leader because I understand inclusion in such a deeper way. I stay attentive to the communication needs of others whenever I'm speaking to them, and especially when I'm speaking about very complex things that I understand they may not completely comprehend as everyday employees, but not just as a workplace policy or process, but truly as a human need for these human beings at work. Is just, that's something I continue to get complimented on every time. I'm like, well, have we tried this way of communicating this to them? Or I've had cases at work where I'm like, I feel like this person needs, further accommodations. And then lo and behold, the process wasn't followed to achieve that for them. So let me say this with my whole chest. Your child, our babies, our autism babies are not broken. Oh no, señora. They are wired, let me say that, for something truly so powerful. And part of our sacred holy work as moms is to protect that brilliance and help them reach their true power. So, specifically my Latina autism moms, hay que seguir rompiendo las cadenas. Tenemos que seguirle enseñando a las familias, tenemos que seguir haciendo nuestros recursos. Todas las que lloran en silencio están haciendo un trabajo maravilloso y no lo duden. So my mamas, my Latina mamas out there, keep breaking the chains. Keep teaching your family members. Keep looking and building those resources. If you're crying in silence, you're doing an amazing job. And I'm so proud of us.
You are raising a child whose brain is beautiful, not defective. Just because people won't understand it, that's a damn problem. You are advocating and standing up in systems that weren't built for them. Keep going. You are learning and unlearning at the same time. That is one of the biggest things that I've realized as an autism mom. That andamos aprendiendo y desaprendiendo a la misma vez. Porque la manera que me trató mi madre a mí y trató a mi hermano no va a funcionar con mi hijo. Y eso es aprender a hacer algo diferente. And you're not alone. The biggest part I want to share with you is you are not alone, amiga. There are moms out here, even with neurotypical kids, that we need each other. So please, if you have not ever learned, interacted, or even been interested in the topic of autism, this is your sign to make sure that you get informed, get involved, and support. Because one way or another, you are affected. This is what I tell every single employer that has ever spoken or interviewed me when they're like, why are you the best person for this job? Because every single day, every move that I make, I consider the future of the workplace and how to improve it because of my son, who does need different support, better support. So I make sure to have that top of mind at every single workplace or interaction. So please reach out if you want to just chat about how to make sure we keep on going with this journey as autism parents. If this episode touched your heart, share with another autism mom who needs this message. Share with your familia, share with your community. And if you want more episodes like this, like motherhood, autism, let me know. Because here we're together and this is a show for you. Muchas gracias. Diosito me los bendiga. Y adelante, mamá.
Thanks for listening to Evolve con Flaka. Don't forget to follow, share with another jefa, and let's keep building comunidad. Stay chingona, stay confident, and keep evolving. Nos vemos next week.